And good evening and welcome. How are you this evening? Good, good. Let me do a couple of things here. And stop that. All right, I got an echo happening. So I have to figure out what to use this evening. I have an echo and I don't know where it's coming from. So let me see how I can work that out. I guess it's gone. I'm not hearing it now. All right. So thank you for joining this evening's program. Echoes back. Hold on 1 minute here. Let me kind of figure out where this echo is coming from. All right. So thank you for joining this evening's program.
Do you have another window open?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Are you able to hear me? Someone show me your hands or something that you can hear me. Okay. All right. That's all that counts at the moment. I have an echo and I don't know where it's coming from, so I'm gonna proceed. This evening, we're going to I'm going to provide you information on the winter and the winter's ability to work within the compounds of our ancestral healing. Winter is the season of our ancestors, and so with it being the season of our ancestor, it's also the season for us to really begin to heal, so that we're able to work within the compounds of the DNA that has come through us for many, many years, actually thousands of years, millions of years, basically, because of the fact that we're carrying the bloodline from the people who have come to us for centuries. And so with that being the case, now what's happening is that now I think I found the echo. So let me just remove this. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Why won't this thing? All right, now you should be able to hear me. I'm not sure where that echo is coming from, so I'm going to proceed. So, the thing is that, you know, we're carrying the blood in the bloodline of a lot of people whose shoulders that we're standing on, and who came before us. And in them coming before us, what happened is that their DNA continued until ours is now, you know. And if we go back in the history of humans, you know, we have to go back to Africa, where humanity first started. And in its ability to start in Africa, what has happened is that it is now transferred to the generation who is us. Whether you're 90 years old or whether you just born, your DNA is functioning in such a manner where it comes from your great ancestors. And so this evening, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk also about the fact that this is the kidney season. This is the season of the kidneys. And the kidneys have to do a lot with how our body functions and how we function in terms of our mental attitude, our mental capacity. It functions as to our fertility, our ability to maintain our stem cells and our immune system. It also has to do with the factor of how our body functions with our bones, you know, which has to do with our bones, our teeth. You know, it's interesting that you ladies out there that have had children, and with each child or with a child, you've lost a tooth. That's the connection between the kidneys and the bones, you know, that kind of thing. And so when you start to look at that, you start to look at the fact that this can be a piece where, you know, your health will begin to grow, and you will then begin to find that as you age, your body becomes better. Or if you're up in advanced age, you can begin to increase your health as your lifespan moves forward. So with all of that said, let me get into a shared screen here. Give me a minute here because I got a couple of things here. Okay, so here we go. Let's share this screen here. Good. And okay, so it didn't share it the way I wanted it to share it. Well, let's do it this way. Okay, there it is. Okay, so as we move through, you know, as I said, winter is the season of our ancestors. Okay, winter is the season that our bones have the DNA, and winter is the season where we are in such a place where the body is able to heal because of the stem cells. And so when we start to work with that, when we start to look at that, we start to look at the fact of what is it that we should do in order for us to maintain the balance of our health, of our stem cells, and of our DNA. So let's go through here and see what we got. So winter is actually the cold season. And by it being the cold season, what we're talking about, well, one of the things that we talk about during the cold season is we talk about hibernation, you know, and all animals basically hibernate in the wintertime, or they move around differently in the wintertime than they do in the spring and the summer and that kind of thing. So when we start talking about the winter, what happens? What happens is the fact that what happens is that we find ourselves working within the compounds of how the winter functions as the animals instinctively know exactly what to do. With us as humans, we don't. What we do is we do all kinds of things. We don't hibernate. You hibernate. You hibernate by going outside. That's how we hibernate. We don't hibernate by sleeping all winter. Although it would be nice, wouldn't it, if you could sleep all winter and hibernate, and you know your boss paid you while she was sleeping during the winter. You know, that would kind of probably be very nice for you. However, that's not reality. So because it's not reality, what you're looking at is you're looking at the fact that now you're in a space where your body now is going through the challenges of the winter. And those challenges of the winter are putting you in a whole different place in how your health reacts because of the fact that you're not you're not in a hibernation stage. However, your body does go into a hibernation stage. We don't deal with it in that manner, but it does. For instance, your digestive tract in the wintertime begins to slow down. That's why in the wintertime, we find ourselves having or gaining more weight, which is basically waste, than we did in the spring and in the summertime and in the fall. So because of that, what now is happening? What now is happening is the fact that because we're gaining more waste now during this season, we kind of talk about the fact that, well, I gained weight over the winter and I don't know why I gained weight. You basically gained weight due to the fact that your body is storing, because during this season your body needs to store fats basically so that it maintains the warmth because of the cold. However, you know, as global warming is happening, one of the things that we're dealing with here is that we're dealing with the fact that it's warm out. So because it's warm out, that means that we're not going to gain as much weight. The digestive tract is not going to slow down as much, you know, and you still have the ability to function in the manner that, you know, you were functioning in the autumn, and as well as in the spring. Now it's interesting because the other day it was cold, and I went to the store and I found that I saw a person with shorts and sandals on, but it was cold. I had on a heavy coat. So with that being the case, what we're looking at is the fact that some of us still think it's fall and summer, where the other of us understand that it's winter and it's a little cold out there. You know what I'm saying? So as we move forward into winter, okay, let's see what's happening. All right. So this evening, things just figure they want to do their own thing. Let me see what's happening. There we go. So as I said, this is the kidney season. Okay. And it's the season that the kidneys function at their optimum. This is the season when if you have issues with your kidneys, dialysis, hypertension, thyroid issues, fertility issues, Alzheimer's, those kinds of issues, osteoporosis, those kinds of issues, lower back pain, your hair thinning. This is the season to actually work on those because of the fact that this is the season that allows the kidneys to function for you. The wintertime is that season, the kidney season. And so because it is the kidney season, what now happens? What now needs to happen is the fact that now, with it being the kidney season, your body is working to re-establish the balance of your DNA and your stem cells, which your DNA and your stem cells are in your bones. The kidneys rule over your bones. Your kidneys maintain the level and the balance of your DNA so that your DNA now can infuse itself during the winter. If, for instance, we got this energy out here in the world called COVID. And so with that energy, this is a time to go into your to work within the compounds of your bones to invigorate and enhance and balance the levels of your DNA. Because when you do that, what happens is that, or when you put stuff into your body so that you're able to get the DNA that comes from your ancestors from 6 to 2 million years ago. That blood, that DNA now can work for you because this is a season to begin to enhance that, which means that by using certain foods of the season, by looking at certain things like fasting, those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that allow for you to begin to reevaluate and increase the ability of your DNA and your stem cells. Your stem cells, which I'll talk about later a little more, but your stem cells is what actually works to maintain the health of your immune system. And Lord knows we need all of the ability for our stem cells at this particular point. We need that because of the fact that we got this energy that's running around the planet here that's causing us to shut stuff down and all of that kind of stuff. So your left kidney is a yin kidney, which means that it's water. The right kidney is the fire kidney, which means that that's the fire and that's the chi. And chi is the ability, chi is energy. Okay. And the right kidney has both of those. It has the energy and it has the fire. And so when we start talking about things like fertility, you need that water, but you need that fire to heat up that water so that fertility happens. So, all right, there we go. So when we start talking about kidneys, we also are talking about, again, as I said a minute ago, DNA and your stem cells. And, you know, we hear a lot nowadays about DNA. You know, we don't hear as much about stem cells, but we do hear a lot about DNA. And so within the compounds of the DNA, and I'm not going to get real deep into DNA and stem cells today. I do have a courses coming up next month that I'll get into that deeper, so that people who take the course, you'll have an understanding of how your DNA is functioning, and how that DNA functions in terms of you and the generation that's coming behind you, and how the generation came before you. That's like, if for instance, let's say that your grandmother, let's say on your father's side, and let's say it was your great grandmother, and let's say that she had 15 children. Okay, and if you go back into the past, you know that was not impossible. I knew a family that she had 20 children. This one lady. This was when I was a real young man, and so it's not impossible to have 20 children back in ancient times. Also back in the 50s. I had to go back and think when that was. Yeah, that was back in the 50s. And so what you're looking at is you're looking at the fact that as time has grown, we have become less fertile. A lot of that has to do with the foods we're eating, the medications that we're taking, you know, the thoughts that we're thinking, you know, and that's not supporting our ancestors. And so because we're not doing those things, what is happening now is that now we're finding that we are having things go on that have to do with the ability of us not being as fertile as we once were. And so the thing that we should be mindful of is the fact that if we begin to work on our body, our mind, our spirit, then what happens is that we then find ourselves working towards the factor of us healing. And there's a difference, and there's a big difference between curing and healing. Okay? There's a great big difference between curing and healing. Curing only happens to ham. And it only happens to ham when you put it in a hothouse, put salt on it, and let it stay in the heat. That's curing. Humans don't cure. God has given us the ability to heal. But it's about what we do to heal. You know, how do we deal with healing? What does healing look like to us? See, because we have to answer those factors in order for us to be able to heal. When we start looking at our ancestors, we have to go back and say, well, how did they heal? One of the pieces that they did a lot was they prayed. The other piece that they did, especially from the African traditional systems, they gave reference to their ancestors. They gave reference to their ancestors because of the fact that they understood the fact that they carried the spirit of their ancestors. And that's what helped us to heal. Even as we were brought from Africa to Turtle Island, as this land was first called by the indigenous people who lived here, which then it got renamed America after a map maker. And so, and I wasn't much on geography, but I did remember that. So the piece of that has to do with the factor of, if you understand that there's more to your life than just you, and the healing process is more than just you, because you carry the blood and the DNA of many generations of people who have come before you, and some that are now living, and some that now have passed as ancestors. And so if we keep that alive, then we'll find that we can rebuild fertility without a whole lot of drugs, and not to tell you not to do whatever you need to do in terms of your fertility. But we have young women of childbearing age who are having fertility issues. And then that means that there's an issue that's going to happen with the DNA and the stem cells. So we can actually reverse this, but it's about what we do. And one of the places that you should start is kidneys. And if you've noticed, growing up, you'd see a church, and you'd see a liquor store on each corner. Nowadays, you might see the church, you might see the liquor store, and then you see a dialysis center. We have more people going on dialysis than ever before in the history of humans. The interesting thing that you should look at is this: how many animals in God's kingdom do you know that give dialysis? Think about it. How many animals do you know that get dialysis? For me, I don't know of any. But what I do know is that you have several 100,000 of people on dialysis. And every day, someone new winds up on dialysis. You wind up finding people with diabetes. And you got diabetes because it's a heat wasting disease. The same thing that happens with hypertension. So we have a lot of fire and water imbalances. The kidneys balance the fire and the water of the body. There's really only two elements in the universe, and especially in the body, that's fire and water. When fire is blazing, you have dryness. When fire is out, you have stagnation. When water is in excess, you have bloating, swelling. When water is in a stage of deficiency, extreme deficiency, you have too much heat. So you can have itching, you can have hot flashes, fever, those kinds of things. When they're balanced, when the right and the left kidneys are balanced, you have life longevity. When we continue to talk about the kidneys, we talk about infertility, as I talked about earlier. We talk about the factor that infertility and impotence. There's a lot of men and young men who are having issues with impotence. A majority of that has to do with the foods that people are eating. When you eat that processed food, that greasy food, and a whole lot of sugar or sugary foods, you're actually talking about eating foods that is not supporting your DNA. And your DNA is what is allowing you the fertility that is needed. If you're a young man, less than 56 years old, and your hair is either receding or you got bald spots, what's happening is the fact that you have a kidney issue, because kidneys rule over the head hair. And so because kidneys rule over the head hair, what is happening is that now that's showing you that you have an issue. So then down the line, you may wind up having issues with impotence. And the new word for impotence is ED, erectile dysfunction. And women, you wind up having a fertility issue. Your cycle should come regular. It should not have clots. There should be no pain. There actually should not be what Western society calls PMS. Your cycle should be really nice. Matter of fact, in Chinese medicine, that's called Tian Gui, which means heavenly water. That's supposed to be a heavenly time for you to be able to have life. And the piece of that is the fact that that's not happening in some women's cases. And so that's only because of the fact that you are not fertile in the manner that you should be, because of the fact it could be because of your emotions. It could be because of the factor of the foods that you're eating. It could be because of several different things that's going on in your life. I talked to a woman today who called me because she was having fertility issues. And, we had a conversation, and within the conversation, she said something that steered me towards the factor of that her infertility is emotional, and it's not having to do with anything that has to do with physiology per se. So, it could come from several different places. Thyroid has to do with the endocrine system. Now, The piece of the endocrine system is this. And in the course, I get into the endocrine system, which is the ductless gland system, and which is the system of spirituality. The kidneys, I'm gonna go back to the endocrine system in a minute. But the kidneys are the foundation of spirit. Let me tell you why. The kidneys have to do with reproduction, conception, gestation, pregnancy, delivery, maturity, aging, and death. So the kidneys will bring us in and they can take us out. When the kidneys go, you're gone. But they connect us spiritually to the heavens or to the God of your choice. And so when you deal with the kidneys, you're dealing with spirituality. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about that God force that runs through your body. That's the spirit I'm talking about. I'm talking about the factor of that invisible energy that's inside of you that wakes you up in the morning, that puts you to sleep at night, that whispers in your ear on things that you need to know. Sometimes you follow it and sometimes you don't. That's the piece. That's also the piece that has to do with fertility. See, because fertility also has to do with the connection of the two spirits. If those two spirits don't connect, then what happens? What then happens is that conception doesn't happen. So when we start to look at that, we have to look at the factor of how do we work within the compounds of physicality and spirituality in order for us to function. And that again has to do with your kidneys and balancing your kidneys. Thyroid, I'm going to go back to thyroid. Okay. Thyroid has to do with the factor of how your body functions within the compounds of your endocrine system. Your endocrine system, which I'm gonna get into in a minute or two, but your endocrine system has to do with the pituitary, the penile, the thymus, the hypothalamus, the thalamus. It has to deal with the thyroid, the ovaries, the testicles. So those are the glands that it has to deal with, which are the ductless gland system. And the ductless gland system has to deal with the factor of what carries our body in a spiritual level that moves us into the physicality of life. And so when we work on those, in some cases you could use some foods, in some cases you could use some herbs. When we work on those, what happens is that we then begin to see different things coming clear and different things functioning in the manner that we would like for them to do. When you start talking about diabetes, and I talked about that earlier, diabetes is a product of fire and water. Diabetes is a heat wasting disease, meaning that you don't have enough water in your body. And so because you don't have enough water in the body, what happens then is that now the body is unable to allow for the uptake of the glucose, which is the sugar. And so because it's in that realm, what happens is that now the glucose stays in the blood, which now creates more heat. And so that's one of the prime issues of the that's one of the prime issues of dialysis. You know, dialysis and you'll find more people on dialysis who are dealing with diabetes than you'll find in any other way. Although people don't have to be diabetics in order to be on dialysis, but you'll find more people who are diabetics are on dialysis because of the fact that it's a heat wasting disease. Bone health has to do with the factor of again, osteoporosis, and this is a season to really deal with osteoporosis and allow for the body to heal the bones. Okay, which means that, for instance, if you have osteoporosis and you're having pain, then you should stay away from nightshades. Nightshades are white potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, and bell peppers. And bell peppers of all sorts. They have selenine acid, and selenine acid is an acid that increases pain. And so, if you have that, you should be eating more vegetables and more green vegetables than any other kind of foods. You know, you should be eating foods like cabbage and kale and Brussels sprouts. Now, going back to the thyroid, if you have thyroid, you should stay away from cruciferous vegetables. And cruciferous vegetables are the ones I just mentioned: cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, what's the other one? Kale, because kale is one of them. Cauliflower, those kinds of things. Those are things that you should stay away from because of the fact that they block thyroxine, and thyroxine is the hormone of the thyroid. And with diabetes, you should stay away from anything that's sugary and starches. But for bone health, then you should take in things like beets and eat plenty of things like apples and this time of the year, grains. And then hypertension. And, when you start looking at hypertension, what you're looking at is someone asked about the cruciferous vegetables working against cancer, and they definitely do. But if you have a thyroid issue, then they're going to work against you. You being able to have, they're going to block thyroxine from doing its job as a thyroid hormone. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to now have more problems with your thyroid than you did before. But cruciferous vegetables are one of the finer vegetables for cancer. But you also have to look at other things as well when you start talking about cancer. But those are good for cancer. They're not good for people who have thyroid issues unless you eat them sparingly. And then that means that you don't want to create other issues with your thyroid because of the fact that you're eating cruciferous vegetables. Okay. I hope I answered that question for you. But when we start talking about hypotension, we're talking about basically several different things. First, we're talking about, again, a balance between fire and water. Second, we're talking about the fact that not only can the kidneys be involved, but the liver can be involved, or the spleen and the stomach can be involved. The spleen and the stomach would be involved because of the fact that you're overweight. Okay, and a lot of people who have hypertension are overweight. The kidneys get involved because of the fact that they have to deal with the water. The kidneys will get involved. The kidneys will get involved if you have too much fire and not enough water. And the kidneys get involved in that manner because of the fact that the liver has to do with fire. Well, it has to do with heat. And so the liver is easy to get heated. And it's easy to get heated because of the fact that what you're looking at is you're looking at the fact that the liver synthesizes everything that we do, everything that we think, everything that we wear. Everything in our life has to go through the liver. So if you're all stressed out, that's going to create heat within the liver. The heat within your liver, what that's going to do is that's going to cause you to have issues that now are functioning in a manner that increases the heat in your blood, which now is going to increase your blood pressure. On the other note, with the spleen and the stomach, if you're gaining weight, which is basically waste, what happens? What now is happening is the fact that now you have more fire than you have water. But in some cases, you have more water and no fire. And if you got more water and no fire, then you got coldness. That coldness turns into the cholesterol. Because when you have fats, and fats don't have heat, what happens is that the fats then begin to solidify. Everything that happens out in nature happens within your body. When there's no chi and there's no heat, you get stagnation. High cholesterol is stagnation. Cholesterol should flow. If the cholesterol isn't flowing, then what's happening in the body is now you got stagnation. That stagnation can come from your bowels. If your abdomen is protruding, that means that your bowels are not moving, which means that you're suffering from malnutrition. That could cause your blood pressure to rise. That could cause plaque in the arteries because there's not enough chi and there's not enough heat. So now the right and left kidneys are not functioning in the manner that they should. So here we have hypertension. When we look at hypertension, we look at how the liver's doing, how the heart's doing, how the kidneys are doing, and how the spleen and the stomach's doing. Because the first thing you want to do is put things in perspective. And the first perspective you put it in terms of how to heal it is terms of re-establishing digestion. That's one of the pieces. In all health disharmonies, digestion is most important because that's how you're going to get your nutrients. And so with hypertension, you're looking at the fact of how your body is functioning in terms of your liver, and in terms of your kidneys, more so, and your spleen. Because all three of those function on how your hearts function. And in order to really get into that, it would take a minute. And so that's why during the class, I get into each one of these so that you have an idea. Going back to the thyroid, if the gland has been radiated, then kelp, okay, sea kelp. I make a product called Green Earth Food, which is one of the products that I provide for people who I treat with thyroid. What kelp does is kelp helps to fight radiation. And in terms of thyroid, it helps balance the thyroxine so that the thyroid receives its share of thyroxine without having issues. So when you start to look at that, you're looking at the factor of taking in some seaweed or something of that nature, assist in reducing and or eliminating some of the radiation that has come from the irradiation of the thyroid. When we talk about mental health, mental health is a function that that plagues us all. From the time we hit the planet until the time that we leave, mental health is an issue. And kidneys function very well to help with mental health. Kidneys work within the compound of mental health in the ability for our cognitive behavior and for our ability for the body and the mind to merge with spirit. And so when we start to look at that, we look at the fact that mental health is an issue that we can infuse and enhance kidney, which then nourishes the heart and it balances the liver, so that what happens now is that our mental health capacity functions very well, or reduces the anxieties, which anxiety comes from the liver's energy, where people, for instance, with bipolar can be a kidney yang deficiency. And so with that being the case, you're in a place where there's an imbalancing going on, and that imbalance is going on in such a way where a person can be undecisive or excessive, and that's a kidney issue. And then the endocrine system I talked about earlier, which is a system that we need to deal with in terms of our balancing. And so when we start talking about kidney yin, yang, and qi, as I pointed out, kidney yin and yang balance each other. They water balance the body's acid alkaline balance, and that's a major player that a lot of people haven't dealt with in terms of acid alkaline balance. A lot of people are trying to become alkaline. Well, alkalosis is just as bad as acidosis, which means that you can become so alkaline that your body become sick. For instance, bleach. You know, now you wouldn't sit there and drink bleach, but believe it or not, bleach is alkaline. Bleach has an alkalinity of, I believe it's 12 on the acid alkaline scale. So your blood needs to be 7.35 to 8. It shouldn't be over that, because when it's over that, now you have issues with your body going to alkalosis. And so you really want to make sure that you keep it within the compounds of between 7.35 and 8. That way, you know, now whatever gets into the blood doesn't get into causing health challenges. And then, as I said, the kidneys rule over the bones, the DNA, and the stem cells. And the major piece is reproduction and the essence of life, which is called Jing in traditional Chinese medicine. And Jing is stored in our body as essence, and that essence is in the form of eggs for women and sperm for men, and it's also has to do with the fact that every time a woman has a baby, she loses Jing, and so when she has too many babies too close together, that can cause her to age rapidly, which because of the fact that she's lost her Jing. And that could also cause her to become infertile. When a man ejaculates, he loses his Jing. Ladies, there's no conspiracy as to why after we ejaculate, we go to sleep. The reality of that is the fact that we just gave away our life force, so our body naturally puts us to sleep. And so the more that men ejaculate, the more they have the possibility of having issues with their prostate, which now could cause them to have ED later in life, you know, those kinds of things. And so that's what that is. And then, as I talked about, stimulation of the brain and the bone marrow, the sensory organs of the ears. And interesting enough, if you look at your ear looks like two things that has to do with humans. Think about it for half a second, and I'm going to come back to it. The sound is groaning. Groaning is the sound made in the bedroom. That groaning sound that we have when we have affairs in the bedroom. That's the sound of the kidneys. Its color is blue and black. Its emotion is fear. And that fear comes over us in the wintertime more so than other times. But if you have fear in the wintertime and you allow for it to roll into the spring, it can cause you anxiety. And the positive emotion is kindness and willpower. And spiritually, it has to do with our ancestors. And it manifests in the head hair. And its taste is salt, and it can be bitter. But the majorly piece of it is saltiness. If you're having a salty taste in your mouth, if you're craving foods that have salt, potato chips, pretzels, salty foods, that's an indication that you're having a kidney issue. Now let's go back to the ears. So The ears, if you look at the ear, okay, the ear has the shape of a kidney, and it has the shape of the fetus. The kidney has the shape of the fetus as well. So they're all tied in there together. And the sensory organs, as I said, of the kidneys are the ears. I went in the wrong direction. And so we go back to Africa, which was the beginning of life, which dealt with your DNA. From the Smithsonian, it says humans first evolved in Africa. Much of human evolution occurred on that continent. The fossils of early humans who lived between 6 and 2 million years ago came entirely from Africa. So we understand that our blood and our DNA go back to ancient Africa. We understand that that's where the species of Homo sapien began, which were humans who walked on 2 legs. They equate us with the apes, although Darwin said we came out of the sea. We arrived somewhere from the sea and somewhere from the apes, because if you ever tasted a tear, you see that the saltiness. If you ever tasted sweat, it's salty. And if you do urine therapy, and some people do, matter of fact, there's a whole therapeutic urine therapy that people use for cancer. Okay. And if you ever did a urine therapy, you would know that the urine tastes salty. So there's some kind of connection between our body and the water that has to do with the sea. If you wash your hands, think about it. If you wash your hands or you around water, you wind up and you have to urinate. So there's some relationship there. When we talk about the sea, we talk about seawater being salty. We talk about sea herbs being salty to taste. So when we look at that, there's a connection there. Although there's a connection here between us as Homo sapiens and Mother Africa. So there is a correlation there somewhere. So when we start looking at that, we're looking at the fact that our DNA is extremely old. And so when we deal with our DNA in that manner, what happens is that our DNA opens our ability to create healing. And that healing can come from not only from us doing what we need to do of eating properly, of fasting, praying, but from us doing, the work on ourselves so that we can maintain the health and the healing of our body, our mind, connecting it to our spirit. When we don't do that, then we miss the connection of our ancestors. We miss the connection of our ancestral bloodline. You know, a lot of us nowadays have gone vegan, and that's a good thing if your bloodline will allow that. See, because if you've gone to be vegan, then you need to put in things to support your blood. If you're vegan and you're eating a lot of carbs or health junk foods, then you're not supporting your blood. And so you're not supporting your ancestral blood. If you have your blood is O positive and you're a vegan, then you need to put in supplements to support it. Because without those supplements, what's happening is that later down the line, you might be feeling great now. The health life is like a roller coaster. And if you ever rode on a roller coaster, you know that the roller coaster go click, 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 click. And when it gets to the top, it goes. Well, your health does the same thing when you get 50. When you get that AARP card, yeah, your health starts to dive just like that. And so you may not be feeling that now. You might be feeling great. Your body, everything is great because you're young. But once you get to 50, then your body starts to talk different. So if you're vegan or vegetarian and you got O positive blood, then you need to spruce it up so that, you know, it provides you and it provides you with the nutrients that you need so that you do build your bones, so that you do build your DNA. You know, the bones and the bone marrow is where our DNA and stem cells are. And so with that happening, that's where the replication happens. And so you want to be able to get it so that your bones maintains that replication so that you can continue to live healthy and put longevity onto your life. You know, there was a time when people were living to grand old ages. And it's interesting, now they're saying, well, now people are living longer. But people were living to 200-300 years. See, so, but because of the factor that we're eating all kinds of different foods now, the foods that our ancestors ate, the foods that the slaves ate, the foods that the indigenous people of this continent ate, you know, are not the same. And they're not the same because of the fact that we've polluted the earth in all kinds of ways. So now the soil is ruined. And so because the soil is ruined now the soil doesn't have the nutrients that are needed. So now we need to take supplementation. And the supplements that we need to take have to do with minerals, vitamins, amino acids, antioxidants, because we're not getting it all from the food. We need to also make sure that our digestive tract is functioning properly. What I suggest to people is you take digestive enzymes and probiotics. See, because if you get the digestive tract, and if you've ever been to any of my classes or courses, you know I always talk about digestion. If you put the digestive tract right on target, what happens? What happens is that now the things that you eat will now extract the nutrients, and you'll be able to get the nutrients that you need. You know, you gotta build and maintain your constitution. especially in these times we're living in with this variance that keeps happening. You got to maintain your constitution. This is the time to build that, to rebuild that, to reestablish that, and to maintain the health of your blood. Because when you do that now, what happens is that now your body will function for you in the manner that you want it to function. So there's 4 different types. Yeah. I'm not going to get deep into them. I do that in the course. We get into the blood types during the course. But I just want you to know what they are. So you have blood group A. Has A antigens on the red blood cells with antigen B antibodies in the plasma. I don't want to get into that tonight because that can take a minute. Okay. B has antigens with the anti-A antibodies in the plasma. O has no antigens, but both anti-A and anti-B antibodies in the plasma. And plasma is what it swims in, which is albumin. And then the group AB has both, okay? Antigens and antibodies. And I'm gonna leave that at that. If you're really interested in understanding this, I would suggest that you sign up for the course that happens, I think it's January 10th. It is on the website. But you really should have an understanding of your blood type. And if you don't know your blood type, ask your doctor if your doctor could do that for you. If not, see about donating some blood to the Red Cross. And they'll definitely tell you what it is because they have to screen it. And they'll tell you exactly what your blood type is. That is definitely something that you should know, you know, for all purposes. You know, even if you have to donate blood to somebody in your family. Talking a lot, my throat's dry. And so DNA, you know, dioxin ribonucleic acid, you know, and that's what we all have in regards to our ancestors, you know, and basically, you know, what that is, it's a self-replicating material that is present in nearly all living organisms as the main wow, I can see the word and it don't want to come out right at the moment. Constituent of the chromosomes. It is the carrier of genetic information. In other words, it's carrying what came from your ancestors. It's the foundation and wow. I guess my words tonight is getting twisted here. It's distinctive characteristics or qualities of someone or something, especially when regarded as a unchangeable. Okay? Understand that you cannot change it. Okay. And so by not changing it, you have to always reinforce it so that it maintains its structure and its balance. And so your DNA is most important to your life. Most important to your life. And so you really want to be able to work to enhance your DNA, because when you do that, what happens is that you increase your health. And if you're of childbearing age, you increase your children to come's health. but you got to keep it strong, because when you keep it strong, it functions for you. And your stem cells are the material that's in everything, every element within your body. Every element within your body. That's your stem cells. But your stem cells develop and grow and mature in your bones, along with your DNA. So you definitely want to maintain and keep your DNA solid, so that your bones maintain their integrity, and your cells, your tissues, and your membranes maintain their integrity, so that you maintain the healing property, especially in this day and age that we're living in. So this is the kidneys. As I talked about, these are the elements of the kidneys that I talked about: the bone marrow, the stem cells, the brain marrow, the reproduction, head hair, the taste of salt. It maintains an endocrine system, pituitary, pineal, and thyroid. Just to recap those things. And so the endocrine system, again, I don't want to get deep into this, but the endocrine system has to do with a lot. It has to do with the respiration. It has to do with the metabolism, the reproductive, the sensory perception, movement, okay, sexual development, and growth, okay. And with that being the case, you know, what you're talking about it has a lot to do with a whole lot that's happening within the body itself. Fertility. Fertility has to do with the factor of conception, gestation, pregnancy, delivery, maturity, aging, and death. But fertility basically has to deal with the factor of pregnancy. And so, you know, the kidneys help to maintain the fertility of the body. The yin and yang, the fire, the water of the kidneys. Healing balances, prayer. Prayer is most powerful. You know, prayer changes a lot of things. You know, a lot of things changed by prayer. Set up an altar for your ancestors. The thing with some people is the factor that, you know, they've been geared away from supporting their ancestors. And so we need to go back to, you might want to go back to that, because that's going to support, that's a support system. Fasting is another one. That's going to help to clean, balance, and nourish your body. And then properly eating foods in their seasons, because each season there's a different set of foods that are active that should be eaten to maintain the balance within that season. So prayer, very powerful element within your life. And it doesn't matter who you pray to. It doesn't matter who you pray to. But there's a spirit out there, there's a power out there that's higher than you that, you know, you might want to pray to. You might want to look for guidance. When you pray, put your ancestors in the prayer. You know, I remember as a child, well, not as a child, as a young man, when we were going to partake in liquids of an alcohol sort, we would pour a libation. And we talk about for the boys in here, and for the boys who locked up and that kind of thing. And I didn't realize until later in life that's an ancient African culture. That's part of our culture. You know, as to now, during several events, you'll see people do that and call in the ancestors for their guidance to be in the room as the program goes on. So prayer, add them into your prayer. You know, especially when you have times of trouble, when there's chaotic things going on into your life. And if you'd like to get further into your ancestors, set up a altar for them. This has nothing to do with witchcraft or negativity or any of that. Matter of fact, if you've ever gone into some of the Asian stores, specifically, other stores, excuse me, other stores, but the Asian stores more specifically, you'll see sitting up high, you'll see an altar for their ancestors. If you've ever gone to China or Tibet or someplace like that, you see that all over the place because they understand the power of the ancestors and how the ancestors who came before us, who came before us, what they did was they opened the path for us. And so because they opened the path for us, what now happens is that now, you know, we should honor them. And so take a table somewhere in your house and spread a white cloth, white tablecloth, it doesn't matter. Then you can put a candle that, you know, and I would suggest if you put a candle that has a glass to it. Put a candle. Now, when you light the candle, make sure that you're there. Don't light the candle and go out. Make sure that when you go out, put the candle out. Okay? Put a candle, or when you're sitting there praying, light the candle. Glass of water, pure water. Okay? You can have some incense if you want to burn it. A picture of all of your ancestors. Put some flowers if you want, you know. Put some notes to your ancestors. Those kinds of things, you know. Yesterday was my mother's birthday, her Earth Day, and so I bought her a card and sat it on her altar, on the altar. I didn't get out much yesterday, so I couldn't get her flowers. But normally on her and my father's birthday, on the birthday of my ancestors, I normally get them a card, some flowers, or some things that I know that they liked, to show my appreciation for them allowing me to come through their gateway so that I could be present during this time and space. So they are, for me, a key element of my life. And so with that being the case, you know, you could do things like that. And when, you know, when there's, when my mind is in an unstable place, I'll sit with them so that I can get clarity. Because of the fact that even though they've passed to the next time and space, they are still relevant in my life. And they'll always be as long as I'm vertical on the planet. And I do talk a little more about that during the course, because it's very important that we work within the compounds of our ancestors. And due to certain circumstances, we've been pulled away from that, and it's been called all kinds of other things other than what it is, which is giving honor to our ancestors. Let's see what we got. So the winter fast, and if you're interested, you can order that online. The winter fast is a fast that has to do with drinking juices, taking herbs, drinking water for a number of days. Those days can be anywhere from 3 to 30 days. It's up to you how you would want to do that. What that will do is that'll create a balance for your kidneys. It'll help to cleanse the lungs. It'll fortify the kidneys. It will balance. It will help to start balancing the digestive tract and get rid of any residue, any waste that's in the system, so that as you go into spring, spring is the major detoxifying time. As you go into spring and detoxify, what happens is that now your body will be in a state where you actually can detoxify. So it's drinking liquids, and it's taking either an enema or colonic to clean out, to help remove bowel waste from the system, as well as to rejuvenate your system, to increase your body's healing function. Matter of fact, this is my second day of breaking a fast. I did just a small, short fast during the winter, but this is my second day of breaking it. So I'm still getting rid of waste that was in my system. And so, and it shut me down for a day. It definitely shut me down for a day where I just cooled out for a whole day. But I feel I feel really nice after doing that fast. And like I said, it's still cleaning stuff out of the body. And so, and that's a piece that, that I bear witness to. And I've been fasting for close to 50 years now during each season. And each season I set up a fast so that I'm able to maintain my health and get rid of the stuff from the previous season so that it doesn't store in my body. Okay, so the pros and the cons of an enema. The pro of an enema is that enemas are good because of the fact that they don't put a lot of pressure on your bowel tract, but they do put enough so that they help to bring the water out of it and bring out the waste. The other side of that is that you want to use it's called a utility enema douche bag, and that's what it's called. And I know that Rite Aid used to sell them. Nowadays you probably get it from Amazon, and that's what you want to use. A fleet enema doesn't work. It just doesn't work. That's for someone who's local constipated. You want it to get all the way up into your large intestines so that it knocks that waste loose and comes down out of the body. The colonic is another deal. I've never had a colonic. I have been associated with colonic hydrotherapists who have used several different types of machines. And so that works to really go up and expel the waste from your body. The other piece of that is that when you do those, one is you need to take probiotics afterwards, because what happens is you need to be able to put that healthy bacteria back into your bowel tract. Because if you don't, then what happens is that now you'll be in a place where your bowels may not move for about a week or so, and because the bacteria has been washed out of your colon, you may wind up with a yeast infection. So those are kind of the things when you start talking about enemas, and you start to talk about colonics. You know, they have been good. The people who have done my program have who do the program every year with me, every season with me. They have found great results in using either a colonic or using or an enema. The other part of an enema is the fact that you're doing the enema, and so because you're doing the enema, it can get a little messy. Okay, and so you need to be able to have something, and they do sell little stools or stands that you can put your feet on, so that they're elevated above your chest. So you want to get something that you can do that with. You know, some people do it and they lay in the bathtub. To me, that's a lot of stress, because when it's ready to come out, you got to jump up out the tub and hit the toilet. And that's just a lot. And if you miss it, you got a mess. Okay, you got a real mess. So my piece is that sit on the toilet, do everything on top of the toilet. And so when it decides it wants to come down and come out, boom, there it is. You know what I'm saying? Opposed to you trying to get out the bathtub. You gotta, first off, you gotta unhook the hose from yourself. Okay, then you gotta do this mad dash to the toilet. And depending on how your bathroom is made, the toilet could be several feet away from the tub. So the best way to do that, I think, and I could be wrong, is to sit on the toilet and take care of all your business right there on the toilet. And so that's the piece that I would suggest that you would do in regards to enema. And so when you start doing the cleansing program, you fast for the amount of days that you feel you need to fast for, and then you break the fast. And that's the most important part of the fast, is breaking it, because you want to break it in such a way where you start off with a piece of fruit, and then you go as far as the amount of days that you let me stop. Let me go back to the beginning of this. So the beginning of the fast is where you would take and you would drink, you would start to withdraw from foods. Okay. Let's say you eat 2 meals a day. You would start to break them meals down so that within 7 days' time, you was drinking juices and not and not eating any solid food. Then you would fast. Let's say that you fast for 7 days. So when you break the fast, you eat a piece of fruit. Once you do that, it's going to take you 7 days to get back into eating a full meal. That way you don't shock your body, and that way you don't deal with it in such a way where your body's like, yo, what's up with you? You know, I haven't eaten for 7 days and you're going to drop this big piece down in me? What happens with that is you wind up having gas so bad that it will scare you out of your body. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to do that. You want to take your time with the fasting, with the fasting and cleansing program. You'll get this book that you see. Okay. That book will guide you through your levels of fasting and how to do that, so that you have an idea of what you're doing, especially if you've never done it before. Now, let me say this to you. If you are diabetic or you have some sort of autoimmune deficiency syndrome that you can't fast, then there's another program that I have for you that helps you to clean your system, okay, and reestablish the kidneys, because of the fact that some people can't. They because of what's going on in their body, they can't fast, and that's all right. What happens on the other side of this fortification process with the kidneys is that you begin to feel much better, and you begin to see and feel the way that you haven't felt in a while, because of the fact that you've gotten rid of the waste that's in your system. And so, you know, with that being said, healing is your birthright. And so I would say to you, eat healthy foods within the seasons. You can go back to the website and download a food chart free. Okay. If you decide you want to do the course or the fasting, you have the opportunity to do that on the website. I will be sending out other courses and classes. There's a self-care course that's coming up. There's the prevention and healing of female imbalances that's coming up. There's a diabetes course that I think that's already on the website. And then there's a Saturday Qigong program that should start this Saturday, the 1st. And so that'll go on. I'll make sure I put that on the website tomorrow. And at this point, there's no cost for it. And so if you're interested, sign up for it. And I would see you on Saturday for that particular program. And so if there's any questions, let me see if that echo is still there. I turned off something here. Let me see. Okay. So if there are any questions,
Greetings, brother. Can you hear me?
Okay. All right.
Greetings, brother. Can you hear me?
Everybody's good. Thank you. Be well and enjoy your life as you peacefully walk in health. Oh, okay.
Greetings, Dr. Akmal. Can you hear me?
Hold on. Let me see. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Be well and enjoy your life As you peacefully walk in health.
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, so. Oh, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay, that's good. Hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, so. Okay, I must be on here twice. Hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute. Okay. Yes, it may be because of the YouTube live. Thank you. Let me disconnect that and let's see if that works.